Right, Fambulema bring warm greetings to Una from the TNN TV media empire. Today, the 23rd of March 2022. Me now, Una host and presenter Prince Emil Koma. They come to Una. And Fambulem, this broadcast is very, very important today as we dey creep closer to a decisive period na we electoral calendar. So, as soon as I can see the title, which is about change, and the only constant is change itself, and whether change is inevitable come 2023, this conversation is all about. But for help for present this conversation in a more accurate, articulate way for we general public for understand where we are coming from, and where we're heading, or basically what you try for say is we go look at this conversation from a two-pronged perspective. We want to look at from a contextual point of view where we go call a social change, and also from that same point of view, one look at from a point of view where we go call a political change. So we want to look at the indices, the variables of what constitute political and social change. Why political and social change is necessary in a society. But we first of all need to understand then changes there. We basically avoid cultural change because within the social norm, the cultural is also very much present. So we use the social change instead, and then the political change. So I hope say we get a little bit of a background who one come up from. And for get all of this, we did look at the events of the past 4 years, or nearly the past 4 years, because basically waiting we dey talk about, although it go beyond the last 4 years, which is about political and social change now with society, we also want to remain focused on the last 4 years, because the last 4 years has been very, very critical to the direction in which the country they largely go. And the last 4 years don't help for shape a lot of events in the direction which we are heading. So the question will be, is that direction okay? Even though we're promised a new direction, is that direction comfortable with you? Are you necessarily comfortable with the direction in which your country is head, in which the government of the day is taking the country? I mean, it's a question. I'm not inferring a statement, a question for let you answer. So for understand all of this, we go look at many things. We go look at corruption. We go look at the ACC. We go look at Francis Benkaifala, the head of the ACC. We go look at the office of the office in inverted commas of the First Lady. We go scrutinize the office of the First Lady, Madam Fatima Bio. We go look at issues of corruption. We go look at the National Bank. We go look at Professor Kalon. We go look at the office of the Chief Minister. I mean, previously Dr. David Francis, or Professor David Francis, better known as Professor David Francis, even though he's not the foreign minister now, but we go look at his office then. Because remember, we the retrospect and then we inflect. It's a moment of inflection and retrospection. And then we look at where we are, and hence the question, how did we arrive where we are today? So therefore, we get to look at all the aspects there we don't happen in the recent past. We go also look at situations that are ongoing at the moment, such as the midterm census, for example. We go try for take I don't want to call them an in-depth look, but the way how we get for look at them on this program is going to be really, really critical. So I implore everybody for engage in the chat room. I go continue for focus on the chat room. I mean, let's have a respectful conversation in a program. And let we have the back and forth na the chat room, because this is very critical and important, where they show with different approach to the different issues. And I go to look there, and some of the thoughts of mine tonight will basically come from the chat room, but ones that are very, very relevant, now the ones that I go pick on. So having said this, Fambulem, I want for let we first of all begin by looking at waiting now social change. Waiting constitutes social change. Why social change is necessary. The same go of political change. Within a political change, and why political change kind of necessary. We need to understand them from this background. So for help we for understand this, we get for look at why such a change in a society is necessary. I repeat, why is such a change? And remember, it's absolutely necessary because a social change, which predominantly can be occupied or can influenced by the larger body of the society. Let me say now let me use we country for example, and I dey use region not in a tribal way. I don't want let anybody run away with this in a different sense. So the people basically from the north and the south of Sierra Leone, of course, all the tribes are made up from these two side them of the country, but there are tribes from these two countries which are dominant and then get dominant culture. This is what I'm trying to say. So then dominant culture then can almost like impose, not in the sense of the word itself, impose them value than they on smaller communities or the smaller parts of a society, but what in then can sort of do psychologically is influence the situation culturally, socially, na the ground. So for example, the Mende culture is very influential because Mende is a big tribe with a rich culture, very rich culture. So therefore, predominantly it can influence smaller groups of people or communities in our country. The same can be said of people from the north. People from the north, i.e. the Timnis, one of the largest tribes as well in the country. So they self get their own set of tradition, them which is influential in the society, and it can easily influence other smaller communities. Them so smaller communities, them in a sense, can get lost to bigger communities because they're powerful and strong, they're very influential, and then culture can be taken on. But the thing about social change is in a society, it become an absolute necessity because the urge of we mortal man them now how for better ourselves, how we for make progress in our lives. And Fambulem, the number is developing, but they ask we for let we do the needful if we can continue for sure. I know say it go develop because people basically in other platforms they watch and they look for areas of interest. But this is going to be very interesting because this is about we country. This is about the path that they've taken, that they are taking. This is about 2023. And together, I want for let we all engage with self on this particular broadcast and see how far we go with this. So, in terms of social change, we now absolute necessity. I don't talk about how predominant culture they can get influence or can able for influence the younger side of other culture them or community, i.e. the Mendes from the south southeast, and then the Timnees, from the northwest, so northeast. That's kind of very very sort of critical. But in looking for them changes there, it not always can come very easy, especially where social change intertwine with political change. When are the two things that I want to talk about today on this particular broadcast? It's not easy at all. For example, the Mende people are already tied in with a certain culture, and for no reason, and they bow out of that culture there for anybody else. Politically speaking, they are in tandem with another political liking, another political grouping, another political party. And the same is true of the North, that the Timni people are affiliated and associated with at the hem, stitched together with a particular political party. Hence, we political divide. And this political divide now in don dey cause with this major problem for 60 years after independence because most of us kind of tied into them party there and they refuse for let changes that are happening in the 21st century take hold because traditionally we are kind of tied to then two political party there. So we expect waiting for remain that culture dey for remain the culture of supporting the SLPP, the culture of supporting the APC, because now this region now didn't come out. Because now that region didn't come out. So we continue for support them on that basis day. And I don't think say it really supposed for be that way there because it's supposed for be completely kind of different. So in a society, say every now and then new ideas they come up, new ideas they prevail. So one society can use a method where we call diffusion. So that diffusion they now where one group of people then follow the culture of another group of people we have been talk about earlier. For example, um, you can follow the culture of a food from a particular tribe of people or group of people. You can follow then dress code. Like for example, again, the Mende people are known for their country clothes. Okay, their country clothes. They are known for all the cultural heritage them, such as the mask debul them and other dishes them. So you see how cultures can be basically influenced by predominantly the predominant culture. So we know that these things can happen. The same thing is true of the people them from the north, i.e., the Timni people them, whether not the Bubu culture or the young kind food. Because remember, we dey eat all of the same food, then, but these foods are kind of typical, atypical to a particular group of people. And another change we can also make possible is it can be done through social interaction. The more we dey interact with people, let's say people from the north end up coming at the north because probably of business prospects na the south, southeast, they end up there. But when they go they meet culture and they then get for yeah, embrace their culture and they because that's the culture they've made there. It not mean say themselves not can influence the culture there because themselves get their own way other people like, but because they go on the other side. And the same is true if they were to interchange or juxtapose position. But we know say largely the Mende people remain where they are. Is people basically from the north who are more entrepreneurial where they make them they move from one end to the other, they look for greener pastures. So if other side of the country offer greener pastures, effectually that's where they will end. You see, where change they happen now because people then get fed up with one certain thing where not they bear not they bear any positive fruit at all. So it can either that culture they can either die away or people they can just manage for do away with them because it not get any basic thing where it impact on the society generally positively. Instead, it's negative, negative, negative. There were many things that way they happen now. We think about them many years ago where we been believe say probably the idea there must be very crazy. But as we dey see technology they rise, then we dey get for believe in the power of innovation. Man going to the moon, although this was a long time ago, the invention of the telephone, internet basically, we don't they change things on a faster rate than it's supposed to be. Changing with cultural values, we get forget core principles and ideals in which the community them way exist or USA we exist. We get for also provide some degree of respect, yeah, for the community then they. And if we dey take on them, now because we admire the culture and we happen for make them culture, then they ours as well. In other words, that they talk about the social cohesion between communities. Remember, I say we try for avoid culture inside the talk, although culture deep day inside the talk. The culture of tribes, the culture of people, the culture of we social norms, the culture of we politics. Okay, so when you get a different waiting can impact the change, okay, famulem. Now when you get a different set or group of people where they share the same goal, I want let una follow me, let una take them follow me because the conversation not begin to take shape in terms of the social change and why social change is necessary within the political context what they talk about. I will come to the political side of things, but largely what you go hear inside the political side of things, you go also hear in inside the social change. So inside the social change, for letting things there happen, it require for a group of people for come together, we get or harbor the same idea, but the people then get for be diverse. It cannot just be one group of people. Underline this. It's key. It can't just be one group of people. And which are the type for say family, if you not remember, many a times they have been called for, some kind of rise up against the system. While there was a necessity in calling for people to take action against a system which is not working for them, but would that ever been a champion then cause them they get for realizing that social change the way them in they try for impact or for set into motion. It can forget the blessing of a diverse. The word here, the key word here is diverse. That means different set of people. It not get for be one particular set. The country is made up of a different set of people, and together they get for be aggrieved. And that grievance they will then get for let it bear fruit, they get forget this commonality that they hate see, how they can go about for change them, probably now for make their views known, either through protest and many other things than what they can do. But remember, it has to be a diverse group of people. Even that diverse group of people, they not really end there. They also need politicians, them, stakeholders, them big one, and then allege them for help give impetus, thrust into whatever then they organize for have a meaningful impact. And it does not only stop again at having politicians, yeah, on the side. They also get forget the public on the side. Remember, there are different facets now I make for organize. It's a complete act on its own for organize. Organizing a protest, organizing people, mobilizing people. It's a completely different set of technique them or skills or skill set. Not to everybody can organize, not to everybody can mobilize. Organizers are able to mobilize. Mobilizers are not able to organize. We need to understand these aspects of the kind points them where we try for make. So in the society, you can get aggrieved people, but even the aggrieved people, not so they all can be politically and socially active. And the idea that they're politically and socially active, but are part and parcel of the society, and whatever affects the society affect them, but they are kind of dormant. So you need people and for also mobilize them people. These people are the people that we call the public. Because within the public realm, you get people who are socially and politically active. Not everybody in the society. But when you want to go on or embark on a social, cultural, and political change, you get forget the blessing of the same politician them, we kind of reason with you, say, what you they try for do does have some cause. It gets some backing, it gets some blessing, it gets some meaning to them. So therefore, I, politician XYZ, will support the cause. And remember, this politician, most of them are established, they are household names. So when they lend the name to a cause, that cause they gain traction, they gain momentum. But it does not only stop there, like where Abinitrai for say. It also goes this much that the same politician, the same movement, also need the public on side, not off side. Because again, for the movement, for gain traction, it has to involve almost everybody. Everybody now in can make the movement popular. I make he make you see rebellion they take place because people feel aggrieved, and that grievance they affect them all, and they all share that common knowledge, that common idea, that common goal. And for effect a change to that problem, the way they affect them, they know that they have to organize, and not only organize, they have to mobilize. And when they do all of this, they have to have the backing of certain group of politicians we see them cause as genuine and good for nation cohesion, national cohesion, nation building, and moving forward positively. They also need the side of the public. Very, very critical. You think say the issue, you're now one of importance when you get the public to support you, because the public is very critical to them particular thing there. Okay, when una don't mobilize, when una don't organize, something else, there's another element where you need an event. In other words, inside mobilization and organization, you need the catalyst, you need that moment, you need that spark, you need that how you call them, the Tunisian sort of spark, in which the guy we spark this Middle Eastern revolution, in a be fruit seller, then seize install and stop him from selling during difficult times. On top of that, inside the culture, a police woman slap him, which is a no inside the culture. So hurt was this guy that he go na the Ministry of Local Government na Tunisia, in Tunis, the capital, douse himself after making, some protest, a voice out in protest, waiting happen. How we pain him. in full view of the public heard him, and then he doused himself with some flammable liquid and set himself on fire. Immolation, they call him. And he killed himself. He killed himself. That moment they serve as the catalyst because what he do, it resonate with a lot of people. A lot of people feeling anger, they feeling pain because they all were going through it. Majority of them. And the government may look like say it detached, not understand the people and problem. And this guy killed himself, and hence the revolution spark. So the point where I try for make again is, after all of what I've said, you need the moment, you need the catalyst, you need a spark, just like that of an engine when you turn the ignition. And then through the cylinders, gas flow in that gaseous manner like air, but an inflammable one. So it creates a spark inside that engine block, which revs that engine up and give life, and you already zoom. And that is it. This is what is needed in moments like those. Coming back home in terms of organizing and etc., movements then can take sometime decades. You can get the frustration, like we witnessed that during this short 2, 3, 4 year period in which people were calling for revolution. But revolutions don't happen as such. Sometimes it takes decades, it's painfully slow. The reason why is because it does not or not supposed to happen only for one section of society. You have to take the rest of society along with you. In other words, there has to be some grievance, which is a commonality or the least common denominator affecting all sides of society. Not everyone has to agree, but regions, people in different regions have to agree that there is something fundamentally wrong. So therefore, we need a change. A change is inevitable because it is not going right. So therefore, these things can take decades for let it happen. Decades, because governments come and go. Then one process, then the USAID and can survive. So like the Anescoma government come like for 5 years, 10 years, a rule, and then you get for excuse. Now you get the Julius Maada Bio administration, which might rule for another 5 or 10 years, or even more, and then it will gradually get for giveaway. Because why? In a democracy, this is how you exercise your franchise, your right. This is how you do it. Where you feel aggrieved with the society, with the government in place, you go on and vote them out of power. But sometimes government do indulge in some dubious activities like election rigging and etc., where we go come to. So Fambula, like I dey tell you now, this is exclusively the TNN TV media empire. And which we dey talk about today is about the future of we country. We dey hope say we go continue for help for share this so that we go get more people for watch them. It's obvious that we get people who are going to watch this in the thousands. It's not a joke. You can go now we page, and when you go now we page, you are not forget for like or follow we page, which is the TNN TV Media Empire on Facebook, where we are broadcasting from live now. Or you can also go to our YouTube dedicated channel, which is also known as the TNN TV Media Empire. And do you when una go there, not forget for subscribe. Not only the subscription, but we look for critical thinking, for challenge we opinion when and if necessary, or ask necessary questions. But we dey look for people who diametrically, I've been saying this for like 5, 6 years, diametrically opposed to we position what we take, because we know say we position is reference, because it's investigated forensically, it is well researched, primary and secondary. And before we come out now, when we spew out, waiting we spew out, is based on a well researched source. So just for reminding one day we just join now that what we talk about today is how political and social change can come about. Waiting can precipitate that. How governments can change hand. How sometimes it's not only about the ballot, because sometimes if you wait for the ballot, it become painfully slow because the government in charge can be can effect ballot rigging. And when I say this again, I say on the record, I say, we've always seen this. We see constituency 110, I not be intent for measurement, but just for buttress me point. Just for buttress me point. We see constituency 110 waiting happen there. I need not go further. I've made emphasis on constituency 110 and I've used it at every available opportunity for make me point, which is absolutely necessary for let people understand where we are coming from. We've seen the Koinadugu by-election in which figures were changed by officials who were trusted for change, for monitor the election activity them in a fair, unbiased, and in a manner of principle and integrity. Yet the trust of the Sierra Leonean people were betrayed, in which an official helping to conduct those elections managed to change numbers to effect change in behalf of a particular side. That's the definition of terrorism, using means available to change the outcome of a political outcome. And that's what this person did. And we heard that the last time I spoke to Femi Claudius Cole on a public platform as this one, we heard that that case is still being heard. Imagine how long, but it's still being heard. Anyway, Fambulem. So tonight we will talk about political and social change, and we ask the question whether change in 2023 is inevitable. Because remember that the only constant is change in itself. Let's just go quick now with chat room. Let's see how people and they respond to this particular program, and let's see whether there's anything for that we actually talk about. So just for recognize people quickly, Sister Adama Mambu has already tuned in. Hi, my sister, I salute you. Thank you for tuning in. I know definitely you will have shared the platform. And brother, Sister Adama Mambu is from France, Paris, France. So they're watching us from Paris, France. Brother Delwyn Thomas is from the Republic of Ireland. And good evening to you, sir. Watching from Bangor, Northern Ireland, a regular guest on this program, and I salute you, sir. Many thanks. So that's where they're watching us in foreign countries, different countries, including the United Kingdom, of course. Martha Bangura is watching all the way from Freetown. Mohammed Kamara is watching, and he's with me here in England. Francis Doe is watching me from Canada. And I salute you, my brother Francis Doe. Many thanks for watching. So let's just get back to the program quickly. What will be Depan? The program still Depan develop. Sometimes I'm a little bit slowly. So I mean, they talk about how movement can take like a long time for letting really catch up to the intention for letting really catch up. It can take a while. And this is how movements are made. This is how they are molded. The issue in Tunisia, it took decades for let it come to what it come to. But it took that moment where I've been to talk about an event, the catalyst, when the guy will immolate himself, will burn himself, will kill himself through the act day. We resonate largely with the Tunisian people. We make a dictator like Ben Ali was chased out of town. That's people's power. I repeat, that's people's power. The same thing is true of waiting happened in Egypt. Remember Tahrir Square? Remember Hosni Mubarak? He's dead now. He ruled the people for 30 years. And sometimes when you don't rule this long, get lost. That you dey in a bubble, that you team of advisor them, that they can't tell you what you are hearing because you cannot accept things the way you know are hearing. And you group of advisor, they know you. So then they can't tell you things the way you are hearing. So he lived in a bubble for a long time until the people of Egypt rose up. Apparently, hundreds of thousands of people turn up na Tahrir Square, which is a kind of freedom square, na Cairo, for protest against the Mubarak regime. This took decades. Not to 1 day, not to 1 week, not to 1 year, not to 2 years. It took decades for it come to that. Because remember, they ruled them for something like 30, if not more, after the death of the late Anwar Sadat, who was killed by gunmen because he therefore signed a peace treaty with Israel. So Mubarak, they move and come out. Again, once more, a demonstration of people's power. Waiting the power of people can do once they come together as a people with a common cause. An event takes place, they capitalize on the event, and then history is made. That's what happened. So the same is true of our countries. But in the mix, then they make law them, and then law them the way then they make, it can help for delay the process because the law can happen for these are all politically and socially motivated for bring about change where people and they complain about because sometimes people complain and then government make law, send on a parliament which is largely rubber stamp, approve of then law then they because they are all in tandem. Mind you, people need for draw then distinction in the between then parliament, and the presidency or the executive. They are all in tandem. And with the president having so much power that sometimes when the parliament, who is supposed to be a co-equal branch of government, wants to act independently, can't, because the president is full of powers given to him by institution. So normally parliamentarians then can just flow. That not mean say this parliament is helpful. They don't try them one or two bits, but we know say they can push more. But they've not been willing to do that risk in behalf of the people, because in taking the risk, they themselves will be taking a risk, and they're not willing to take the risk for the people by taking a risk which go put themselves in risk. Imagine that. This is something critical that I'm saying. They're not willing to take that risk. And this is really, really kind of important. So they lost their way and put them in place. It can quiet people then down for a while, because people then can come for believe say, well, government is acting and acting in good faith. But normally it is not so. Government, they read the minds of the people. They get psychologists, they get mental, they get all kind of thing, or all kind of professional for read the minds of the people in form of advisors. So once they know say people are tilting towards that end, they can appease people by making a law where kind of favor the people halfway, or try to meet up the people in halfway, so that tension where they build up, they want for like calm down, because you want for rule in good faith. You really do want for rule in good faith. So that idea then the way that they put together, so through laws or statutes, it become part of the socialization process now with society. Then they become part of the socialization, because then then they influence the way we go forward, what we do, how we do what we do. So members say in family, we influenced by a lot of things. A conversation briefly on the WhatsApp platform, politically speaking, about Russia, Ukraine, and the West. Okay, one side they make an argument based on sentiment, and you're making an argument based on academia, based on research, based on objectivity, because you're listening to many sides, both for and against, and therefore you're able to get a comprehensive idea of waiting to happen, and therefore able to form a reasonable opinion other than one tainted and directed by either sentiment, sympathy, or just right one-sided view of an event. It doesn't work that way, does it? So we know say that they can influence we friends, they can influence we with school friends, with church friends, they can influence us. Mass media is the most influencer now of our time, mass media. And remember, say, media don't change from that traditional to something completely new, which is the day of the internet has arrived. And then you get all the application of social media sites, i.e., Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, TikTok, and you name it. These are all aspects of social media where you can use for get your message out there. And if you're not a content producer, you know how to produce your content, and you intend for use the algorithm in a negative way, you can use them as such, and you go get impact, because anytime where you throw you hook, you always get people and we go come on side where not actually they listen to the message holistically and try for sifter through the message for understand exactly waiting Mr. X they say or Madam Y they say, but then go along because the picture is being painted rosily. So social media has a complete hold on us. We almost hold hostage to social media. If you go on a toilet, you go with your phone. Your phone is now your basic companion. You and your family dinner at dinner table. Almost everybody else there on their phone or their gadget. They try for catch up with social media. This is the new phenomenon, and this is how it's influenced us. Before then was the four corner box. I call it the four corner box, which is the TV. It's still very much effective, but it become a little bit more redundant in the sense that people are more on their mobile phones and other little gadgets them, then carry all gadgets them, then gadgets them we can able to walk away with. This is what is influence our situation today. Some of us cannot be bothered for do basic research for get some degree of objectivity. We just want to believe in waiting somebody they say, and then we get carried along. But on this platform, we decide for debunk all of that and presenting hardcore evidence so that information that people may need, they can get and readily available on this platform. So decisions where they make eventually for a lifetime or for a considerable period of time go be one which is much more informed on what the realities of life is or what in the situation is. Okay. Um there is a lot to be said. So I want for let we move on straight away into the program and where I give this brief background about political change. So political change is not far away from a social change because these two phenomena are kind of intertwined. Because social change does influence political change or influence politics largely, because you can tap on the resources of social connections and use social norms for tap into for get waiting you want. So politically speaking, if I were All People's Congress, my political capital or my political base is in the north. If I were the Sierra Leone People's Party, my political base, my political capital is based in the south. So I will be appealing to these sides and making overtures to the other side we opposed to me and see almost like able for caught inside it. But socially, what can I do for influence that situation? They forget people on my side. Within then I need for do now for influence them through social connections. So I get WhatsApp or Facebook. I begin pull them propaganda video them. They lie and waiting are not supposed for lie and they mislead with people them. So let's get into this, Fambulem. Let's get into this conversation right now, proper. So for 4 years, we've had an SLPP government. We can't talk about corruption. We can't talk about Babadi Kamara. We can't talk about Leadway. We can't talk about the office of the president, the office of first lady, as an extension of the office of the president, and monies, going into the office of the first lady, circumventing the financial laws and exploiting the situation and exploiting the government of Sierra Leone. We want to talk about the Bank of Sierra Leone. We want to talk about Professor Calon. We want to talk about Professor Davis. We want to talk about JJ Blood. So there's a lot here we want to talk about, and we get limited time. So let's get on with it. So Fambule, I begin with Babadi, for example, and the Timbergate. The reason why I begin there, because this not been one particular issue. There are many issues we capture with minds. But this not been one critical one we actually really, really capture with mind, because some people then try for make we like say we not complete fools. They try for foolery. Every one of us and try for foolery. So here's the thing. So Mr. Babadi Kamara, who is hugely connected to the presidency of President Julius Maada Bio, they operate a company called Leadway. Leadway, as una go don't understand, get for deal largely with timber. The issue of audit services Sierra Leone and the reports that we don't pull, not just begin with this fiscal year 2020 report, where we go come to shortly, but it go back 2 years ago, 2018, 2019 in particular, where the SLPP now they own that particular report today, where they cannot deny, which prominent in that report was Babadi Kamara, was Leadway, was Timbergate, which became known as Sierra Leone's Timbergate. Timbergate affair, now an affair will happen with the Leadway company, in which the system of measurement used became an issue. And once it became an issue, a lot of people, including your own supporters, them because we have those tapes at some point we play them, right? But going further, consequently, because what they do now, we're on a wind down to elections. So Mr. Babadi Kamara and in company Leadway tamper with the metric system of measurement. So waiting we say we the use now in country na cubic meters. So because we will not move away by an act of parliament, an act of law, going back I think that 2010 or 2012, where we move from one system of measurement to another. But the basic thing like what we do now, or the measurement we use now, is cubic meters. But this became an issue back then in Timbergate with Mr. Babadi Kamara and a company called Leadway. Waiting them people here don't they do for quite a period of time is to deprive the government of Sierra Leone of hard-earned revenue. There's an irony here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not mistake in this for one moment. There is a real irony here. This particular company don't they deprive government revenue through means of corruption, sometimes broad daylight robbery. The interesting thing about all of this, instead of government, they take action against a company where they deprive them of earning tax revenue or when they violate the rules of the land. The government actually went on for defend Babadi Kamara and Leadway. Family, and I don't want to forget if you remember, not too long ago, the argument was all on social media, all on local broadcasting station them regarding the cost of timber, which was allegedly exported at that time and its value, where this astronomical sum was mentioned in terms of billion. I think it became $5 billion, where allegedly was sold in terms of timber. And that 5 billion, they turn out for be a few millions. It turned out for be a few millions. And then the vuvuzelas on social media capture on that because their masters release information to them just for muddy the waters and confuse every one of us in a serious business such as waiting may happen, in which the government of Sierra Leone was being deprived of revenue which it needed so badly. But instead of trying to rule the law books at this particular company, this dubious company called Leadway, they went on for protect the company called Leadway. Protect the company called Leadway in the sense that the attorney general at the time in law firm where he get, the attorney general at the time in law firm where he get, now in they defend this Babadi Kamara guy and the Leadway company, when I be in company. And there was only one reason for this. And the reason behind this is because government been get interest on this particular company. From the hierarchy, we know that the president had interest in Leadway. We don't see the papers, we don't see the documents. They've been published. They're no secret. So that first family, they get interest inside Leadway. But let me go back to the issue of measurement and the money we they talk about. Okay. So over 2 million at the time was shipped abroad in terms of timber. 2 million centimeter of timber was shipped in 2019. 2019, Fambulem. Okay, this is what we come out deliberately masterminded. The government was supposed to be for the people, by the people, with the people. I want to listen to this carefully, and this is serious. This shows the heart of being heart of disingenuity. And some people then will say, well, when you say this, the question is not how true, because they know now that it is true. A lot of, if not every one of us, has got the benefit of hindsight, but some people still continue to be skilled in their eyes by skills and waxed in their ears by wax. In other words, they've blocked their ears out to the truth. They've blocked their eyes out to the truth, and then decide for be selective, choose waiting they actually want for Erie. So over 2 million was shipped in 2019. So even by their own calculation, we say this because the Africanist press has published this. The report has published this. So this is where we speak from. So even by the government, their own calculation per the year, over 5 billion revenue is supposed for earn from this particular shipment. When I listen to this, so this now outside that 5 billion come out later on, then Damui and confused with like, I will be 5 billion and what have you, but by their own figures, So waiting the Leadway and Mr. Babadi Kamara and the government of Sierra Leone, because they are all acting in tandem now. And this is a criminal enterprise. Criminal enterprise in the sense that Leadway has shown tendencies of criminality. Leadway now seems to be connected to the government of Sierra Leone. And the government of Sierra Leone is seen to be an active participant in protecting a company which has basically deprived the Sierra Leonean people of hard-earned revenue. Revenue that should have been collected and put into government coffers. Fambule Unayedis, this is kind of serious. And like I say, we they make the case going 4 years back, and then we'll begin for fast track and coming forward as election year loom. And this word is going out specifically to we Sierra Leonean people. So that made confusion about 5 billion. Of course, $5 billion, that was quite an astronomical sum. And we dey talk about timber, even though timber is an expensive thing. But how much timber go constitute 5 billion? But who have been responsible for this? The same government of Sierra Leone was responsible for this because somehow, because there was an ill intention for deprive their own government of hard-earned revenue. In other words, siphon the proceeds from the sale of timber into private pockets. They cook up the story which backfired on them. This is exactly what happened. This is exactly what happened, Fambule. Okay, so you know where audit service they go do in assessment or they go or they go assess basically for do the audit report when waiting they can actually do now generation or then they generate some projection because they already get an idea of waiting a particular ministry, a department or agency they do and how they go able for generate waiting and they generate because it's something that they've been doing except it's a newly created entity, then maybe you have to wait yeah, so you can get the stats and see over a period of time how they are doing waiting in the cell, how then they sell waiting in the cell, waiting at the cost, yeah, and you aggregate all of this and then you arrive at some plausible yeah, result or answer. So in terms of estimates on or projection, the offices of the Auditor General, this is exactly what they can do. They know by projection what in the Ministry of Agriculture is supposed for raking because they know it might be plus minus and they can give that as well, yeah, plus or minus, and all the other ministries and departments and agencies. So it can based on a projection about a particular sector. So what we know during this period that the finance minister then we happen for BJJ Blood, he go on a parliament and he go tell parliament something regarding timber. In other words, about the raising of the levy, the timber levy. This na JJ Blood, now go tell parliament, this in incapacity as minister of finance, doing in due diligence, go to parliament because that's not the procedure that they where they're supposed for falla. For go tell parliament, say, well, would they raise the levy on timber? But the intention here was different. You see, there is one thing where you say something, and there's another where you try for effect that particular thing they where you say. So when JJ Blood don't go, remember say the system change. This is important for let we understand. Not many Sierra Leoneans they understand this. By an act of law back in 2010, 2012, I go check that research there quickly, but it has to be one of those 2 years, 2010 or 2012. Parliament passed a law changing the measurement system from that of imperial, from that of imperial to a different set of measurement. Imperial go for be more colonial. So when they talk about if you dey measure timber, like for example, things related to timber them, then kind thing and it will be in cubic meters. If you dey measure meat, poultry generally, it will be in kilos. Yeah, and so forth and so on. So it became from the how you call them in colonial times, from imperial to a kind of a metric system. A metric system. That's what eventually this entire exercise became. So when it became a metric system, if you dey measure timber, it become in cubic meters. But instead, they went on for measure them in by container. So if you measure them by container, you therefore imagine there is an evil intent here for deprive government of hard-earned revenue. To deprive government of hard-earned revenue. And this is exactly what happened for a while. But when they got caught up, especially so by the Africanist press, because the Africanist press was publishing these results, the government then saw it fit that this issue will need to be addressed because that was very ridiculous, that was damning of them, that shows no principle, no integrity, no responsibility. So the finance minister at the time, J.J. Blood, went on to accept that there was an error in the law. So the container for, say, cubic meter, now so that they measure not by container but by cubic meter. So when you measure by cubic meter, you realize say you they get all of your money where you look for. In fact, now the system of measurement now. So why will you get that wrong? Because this is a well thought out process in which they propose the law, people they sit down and study the law. They took the law to Parliament. Parliament studied the law. Then Parliament turned around and passed the law, sent it to the president. The president signed up, went back to Parliament. It became a law. So all throughout that process, they tell me say that a government, a responsible government, could get this kind of thing wrong between the metric system and the imperial system, measuring in cubic meters instead of per container. So you see, this whole 5 billion saga was cooked up by them because, again, we'll get for no later say the whole deal was full of corruption. Full of corruption. So instead of government taking practical and active step for move away from Babadi Kamara and Leadway and recommend prosecution in the courts of law, that wasn't done. Instead, they went on for defend Leadway and Mr. Babadi Kamara, and even the office of the Attorney General at the time became the law firm. His law firm that he owned became the one that was defending Leadway Company. And now we know Leadway Company has got affiliates from the first family, from the president down. This is a given. It's not hearsay and they say it's already established. Already established. So waiting and do, then use all the legal channel. Remember, this is what unfortunately the government has been doing for quite a while, using all the legal channels of the Republic of Sierra Leone, the government of Sierra Leone, for either go around corrupt practices or just basically outrightly legitimize corruption. And all of this for a government that came to fight corruption, who told us that they will be leading us into a new direction, a direction other than the old, something into the new horizon, which will bring prosperity to the nation and to our people, which will bring pride and dignity to our people that will respect the laws of the land. But all of this turned out to be completely different. Completely different. I think we've done over an hour or just on the hour mark. So Fambulem, we get paid commercial, and just before they go into that, I just want to remind Fambulem that we already don't get too commercial and we don't come in, but we dip and work on them because some of them now we get for work on them for cut them and do a voice over. But we already get 2 commercials, we don't come in, so we commercials they can increase to 3 very soon, depending on when we find time the team for cut and join and then do a voiceover for the 2 other one that we don't come in. But just a quick reminder, we do adverts on this particular platform. So if you get your company, your institution, if you get your business, if you get anything relating to advert where you want to let it go far and wide, the thing and let's put away the political differences. Let's just try to be Sierra Leonean. So it's not because I'm being critical of our government. So therefore, if you are an outright supporter of the government without condition, and you get business for advertise, then you take their sentiments and put them in between business and politics, you are losing. Because we are reaching thousands of people who potentially could help grow your business. So advertise with us today. Take that bold step and support a Sierra Leonean all entity. It profits you, it profits us. And we feel a great degree of pride that we advertise for fellow Sierra Leoneans. So let's take our first commercial break.
shock you.
Wow. I like the setup and decor. Quite impressive.
You've not seen anything yet. Wait until you taste the food.
I can't wait.
In a sense, money making
Look at that.
I am sharper than knife, I am sharper than nail. Them are small like ant, I am bigger than whale. My Baba gonna lift you up. Nobody will make you drop. Nobody will
In Brixton, we do more of African food and seafood as well. In Peckham, we do more of African food.
A reception or function of any type, this is the place for you. Just do your booking on time and we can do catering for you.
Yes, here we go again. You already know what time it is. It's your boy, your brother, your DJ, your promoter, Mr. AKA the African Prince. DJ Soulkinder presents the event everyone is looking forward to. SL Fresh Fridays on Friday the 25th of March 2022. Live at Club 701 516 Oaken Road, London SE1 5BA. Time from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Last entry is 2 a.m. I repeat, last entry is 2 a.m. Remember, no ID, no entry. Entrance fee is £10 all night. DJs on the night, DJ Soulkinder, DJ Razek and DJ Mixmaster K. For VIP table bookings, please call the man himself, DJ Soulkinder on 07930-813-167. For more info, please feel free to share with friends and family. See you all come Friday, March the 25th at Club 701. God bless you.
Okay, family, welcome to the second part of TNN TV. Me where they talk to una today, the 23rd of March. Now, my name is Prince Nkrumah, and I bring una the warmest of greetings from the platform. We they talk about we country, we they talk about the future of we country. We not talk about sentiment, we they talk about hard fact. We not talk about theory, we are talking about practical. We they look at circumstances, we they look at hard evidence, we they look at forensic evidence as well. For so here we go again. We've been just to talk about company, and then probably good things say the Sierra Leonean people are forgotten, even though they've deprived the Sierra Leonean people of hard and finances. Then we're supposed to go now the consolidated fund. Even the government need money, so why will the government embark on acts of this kind in which the money we're supposed to go to government coffers instead they allow them to go into private pockets, depriving your own government and subsequently your own people from getting much and or needed revenue we go help for change their lives, whether not health, whether not education, whether not creating other further job opportunities. But this has not been the case. What's important now and family need for now is Mr. Babadi Kamara owe the government of Sierra Leone, and this is documented. He owed the government of Sierra Leone over $5 billion. That's what we know. Then owe the government, and we know say it's an enterprise, but Babadi Kamara is the point man for the levy, and then owe the government of Sierra Leone over 5 billion. And I don't think say the government of Sierra Leone go decide for way 5 billion. Maybe they can do them at this time. But if that change where people and they anticipate what will happen, then obviously that has to come with the accountability and transparency process in which people then once abuse positions because they may get access to the corridors of power, then people and they definitely will need for answer questions. And if it's well documented as this one is, because it they inside the auditor generally reports, they almost kill Lamamina this place. Some people that will not even understand what the talk was about. Then jump inside the talk, oh, 5 billion, oh, this or that. Even someone that we even get some decency and respect for, they also jump inside. But either they do it out of ignorance or just partisanship. Now we understand the 5 billion. And now some of them don't lick their wounds and don't take the background. But the bottom line is, Mr. Babadi Kamara owe the government of Sierra Leone 5 billion. And the government of Sierra Leone does not only mean the government now. Anytime government change hands, whatever government is in power called or will be known as the government of Sierra Leone. So if this government does not take much needed action for recoup then kind money then we go serve the general citizenry of the country, then with the hope say another government will do at when the appropriate time comes. But anybody will defraud the government of Sierra Leone from their hard-earned revenue, then they should not go scot-free. And the irony in all of this is President Bio promised the people and say, well, this is it. At the Fed corruption, we could take action against corrupt officials then. But it turned out for say this is not the case. Everything that we watch now, and remember, the most important thing is we get the benefit of hindsight. And everything that we are seeing now, it shows a completely or imply a completely different picture. And this particular picture is of a people, of a government, of a people in power, with enormous power, who are determined for defraud government of Sierra Leone. And this is the government defrauding itself just to fill in their own pockets. Just to fill in their own pockets. I'm speaking on record way. Just for filling their own pockets. But Mr. Babadi Kamara owed the government of Sierra Leone 5 billion as far as we're concerned. And that money at some point will have to be paid. It will have to be paid. As we speak now, there's no penalty that's been against Mr. Babadi Kamara nor his company. Again, why? Because he's got connections at the very top. And the presidency has got interest in the company Leadway. We don't read that in some cases, the company is actually owned by the president. And the president, I handpicked Babadi Kamara, who is a crony of his, for manage Leadway. Then Leadway did in the business of defrauding the government of Sierra Leone. And then the president knows this. His ACC boss, Mr. Francis Ben Kaifala, knows this. And no action has been taken. But they want to divert our attention into something else. We for pay attention, whereas we try for pay attention to something this significant. It's not going to work. The people know better. And we will continue for inform the people. What we also understand from the Africanist press is the word tacit, I think, is very relevant in this case. That tacitly, Mr. Babadi Kamara don't accept. Remember, I say tacitly. And tacit and accept, the way I put them, it sounds ridiculous. But yes, of course. Because why? They have indulged into practices of like paying back into society. It's like the process of justice. When you do wrong, you make amends. You show remorse. And once you show remorse, you pay back into society. And the money you've been taken by society, you give back some of the money to vulnerable aspects of the society. So even though they've not accepted this blame, what thing we do know is Mr. Babadi Kamara at some point be embarked on projects where they say old people and they under the struggle. Mr. Babadi Kamara go there and he go donate, a couple of millions, for putting himself in a good book, in good faith. And so probably people then go see him in good light. But this is not going down well with the Sierra Leonean people because when they talk about billions of dollars, not so because you go give 40 million leons on side, means you've absolved yourself of all sins. And the president understands this because he's Catholic. For absolve yourself of sin, you get for make confession. And when you make the confession, you get for make amends. So all them public relation campaign everybody Kamara be engaging, they pay 20 million under 60 million under. It does not amount to the defraud the government of Sierra Leone of billions of dollars, which will have to be paid at some point because the people of Sierra Leone will not tolerate that. They're strapped, they need money, and the money then they will have definitely to be paid. At some point, the president, if I remember again, things are happening so fast, and some of the things they want to talk about, it go back. We need to understand that it really go back. Say Babadi Kamara, they appoint one time as TM, some manager for Stars, not so. Of course, they may reject that position there, but you can just imagine the sort of corruption we just circulate inside a government that promises us that they will fight corruption. But here is what is happening, and etc. etc. So another wrongdoing about this entire process, this is not my last one on this Babadi Kamara thing, and it's very important that we lay all the emphasis and present all talk about the Leadway and Babadi. One way very, very much known for the government of President Bio is in lack of the lack of due process. Absolutely, that's the word I was looking for. The lack of due process is so obvious, so obviously abused in this particular government of President Bio. So in this same case of Babadi Kamara, we say Asina, the last point I want to make is like there's a process when it comes to procurement, there's a process to be followed, laid down by law. And every aspect of this process laid down by law has not been followed. It's always been about cronyism. And this is very true of the Babadi Kamara thing. The president handpicked Babadi Kamara. Handpick, where I say handpick. And when you handpick somebody. And in this case, sometimes you handpick somebody, like in the Western world where we are, some African countries, on the basis of experience and what value that person they can come for add to the sector, department, ministry, or agency to which they've been appointed to. Not on the basis of cronyism, favoritism, or for shade you or fence you. No, it's on the basis of experience. What added value can you bring to a particular sector in society, which will be of benefit and a plus for the government? But this is not the case at all. So the president actually handpicked Babadi Kamara because he get vested interest in Leadway International. The Attorney General get vested interest in Leadway International, and again back now the protector. Law firm, the person they use. So you see the conflict of interest here at play, and also looking at why there's a conflict of interest is because either side are benefiting from the proceeds of within this company they make. So then protect them. The finance minister then, JJ Blood, had vested interest in this. And so was the chief minister. And all them people that were mentioned, the record is there. We need for go back to the archive. They spoke in favor, not only speaking, but they acted in favor to protect Leadway International and Mr. Babadi Kamara. When you want to know this, all you need for do, again, back, this is what we do here. We speak on the basis of reference material, and we can provide them reference today. All you need for go to Asikuda. Just go there. You will see what you will talk about there. You will see what you will talk about there. It's there. Go to the customs data, because the customs data that we've come to learn, thank God for African Express. But of course, it was there. But largely, people came to know of these things because of the African Express and Mr. Bar. This custom data is tied to the international system. So not a thing where you go just turn up all by yourself, where you want to get things done. So you fidget them, you doctor them, you amend them. No, it doesn't work that way. So if you visit the custom data, you will find out the truth of what we are saying, especially when it comes to this Babadi Kamara Leadway thing. Timber, the measurement for metric system container, which was done deliberately. And the minister come and go back and apologize, say, oh, there was a mistake in the law. How could mistake be in the law when this law was something that was well thought through by professionals? These same professionals then they come to an agreement, say, yes, this does make sense, so we should go forward with it. And then from there, they send them. This not ministerial side, it was discussed. And they talk about ministers of government. People trusted with the affairs of state. And then from there, they push and go to parliament. Parliament now represent all the people there, all the constituencies that we comprise of the country. They look into them, deliberate on them, and they agree say it makes sense before they finally send them to the president. And the president, in infinite wisdom, along with the advisors, them would all read them as well and agree, because members say first of all they don't send them a draft, so they're familiar with them. Before the president, they put pen to signature. And then before they send them back to parliament, it became a law. So also this mistake come out? This huge mistake from metric, to container. From millions to billions. What's I come from? Something was fundamentally wrong. And away from that, after they don't do all of that, where Mr. JJ Blood don't come and don't admit, guess what happened again? Then come back now the public. and they can fool we back. They can fool we. But we go keep that for another day. I need for move on to something else because there are a few things that I want for cover based on the topic here tonight. Formula they ask once more again if we can continue for share. This is quite important. And I've been wanting to do this broadcast for 1 hour 30 minutes. We might extend it to 2 hours or about 1 hour 30 minutes if we're able to cover everything up. So I wonder we go now to the ACC. I say now recount with a recount. With a look back, in other words, reflecting, and then come to a present time, and then make projection about the future. Where are we heading? So we get the ACC, for example. The ACC is under previous government, and they are this by Koroma government. And then under this government, of course, the ACC can get more powers. And when this government come to power, we see the introduction on the basis of what they intend for do in good faith. And a lot of us buy into that, including myself. Because why? I believe that corruption is a cancer to our society. Until we can kill that tumor, ostracize that tumor, the corruption will continue. And waiting the government of retired Brigadier His Excellency Julius Maada Bio come and promise we was very great. So people like us buy into that. Now it make you be see at one point I was a darling. Because yes, I've been buying into within the presidency and help for promote that message. Because I know how corruption how much of it was killing our country, how we managed to mitigate them or stop them, because I don't think it can ever be stopped. But at least mitigate them, reduce the consequence of them, reduce the means for let people to be corrupt. Then we get more for gain from that, because waiting we will gain from them, nothing we will not anticipate at all because of the corruption. It occupy every facet in our society. Pardon me. Just have a okay, family. Thank you very much for understanding. So that's it. So the ACC come into being on that basis day, and over the period of time, we see it change. This is why nothing really remains stagnant, and the reason why the only change itself is constant is change. Nothing else but change. Change is constant. So we continue to do that. Let me revert back quickly to the chat room. Let me see whether there are any new contributions. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Please let's continue. Very many thanks, Mr. Kamara. Ambassador from Finland. Here we got somebody from Finland watching. From far-flung places. Them. TNN TV continue for grow. Jonathan Williams. Hello, sir. I'm watching Freetown. Yes, Mr. Jonathan Williams, very much. Many thanks for watching from Freetown, and I hope you're doing well. And please try to spread the message in Freetown for us, if you will. But we really do appreciate you, despite the constraints. Mr. Delwyn Thomas, I'm slightly confused about the concept of people's power. These uprisings are not spontaneous but organized. The fellow in Tunis certainly sparked a revolution, the Arab Spring, but it took organization and coordination, usually by the opposition, to give more. The Arab Spring, but it took organization and coordination, usually by the opposition, to give it life or make it sustainable. The same applies to Egypt. The Muslim Brotherhood had been organizing for decades before in secret, and were able to take advantage of the prevailing discontent. Okay, let me address that, Mr. Delwyn. Hopefully I understand that. First of all, some revolutions are spontaneous, my brother. Some revolutions are spontaneous. It's only lately that instead of being organic, it's been programmed. And you have like people waiting in the wings because they are the ones that instituted. We can use the Western culture, for example. They can institute a revolution. They can inspire a revolution over a period of time because they've got the means, they've got the logistics, and many other things. So yes, they can inspire. And then that's when you see apparently what you're talking about, where there is a wing or a group in the waiting because it's been instituted, it's been delivered. But most times in the past, it was spontaneous, my brother. Somebody upset about something will happen, but other people let me know they're upset about this as well. This is why I spoke about the moment. There has to be a catalyst. So sometimes some of these revolutions were not driven by people from the outside, like the Tahrir Square revolution. It wasn't driven by the people from the outside. This was organic. It was organic. People felt that Hosni Mubarak had ruled them for more than 30 years and he had failed them. And this is the cultural and social change that I was trying to speak to earlier on. These are a new set of people inspired by innovation, innovative techniques, the arrival of the internet, which is spreading messages fast like lightning. And this new set of people, the young people, which is a similar thing happening in Freetown, but we haven't managed, in Sierra Leone rather, we have not managed to coordinate it as yet. But it is happening, and this is the revolution. So they use that and are able to communicate. Here in England, remember, the protest under the McDougan and other protests that were held there, largely the police was caught out because sometimes they inspired this protest, they coordinate this protest. But then came BlackBerry, in which people in the street proved street smart and was using BlackBerry, which was encoded just like WhatsApp, to organize themselves. So that was an other spontaneous, organic uprising. It ended up somewhere else because the intent wasn't to take over government. But these things do happen, sir. So it does not necessarily mean that there has to be a wing in the waiting. Many of the recent revolutions that have happened did not have other people like an organized team waiting to capture. Only because when it is organized, then that's when you've had a group of people waiting. But some of these were spontaneous. And again, that's why I said, if you did listen to me, sir, when they organize this cultural change, this social change, it is about a group of people with similar ideas then come together, but again for cut across the country, not just one set of group of people, again for cut across the country. And even when you do that for help add, some clarity and gravitas to your cause, you even get a politician in there. Not necessarily a politician who is not liked by the people, because inside politics you get the liberal ones them, you get the righteous ones them. So you can bring them come, and because they resonate with the people very, very well. So you can bring them come now your cause. I also said in effecting these changes, you also need the public on your side. And once you get the public on your side, you can then begin to go into your revolution by having organized and mobilized. In that organization and mobilizing, this is where the experts come in. And this is where you normally have people who are prepared for a takeover. But normally, other people can just organize spontaneously because they're upset and bam, then go and begin for take shape. And then when you go look sometimes, now there you can find the army can come into the picture because there's an uprising, and for restore sanity, the army is accepted during those periods because they come in and side with the people. This is similarly waiting up in a Tahrir Square. The army in Egypt is known to be on the side of the people and highly respected. So when they came into the picture, the public succumbed to them and decide for accept Tantawi, I believe, who is the leader. But this not from the same old school background, Hosni Mubarak and what have you, and the spy chief. Anyway, it's complicated. Let's get back to Sierra Leone. But many thanks for that thought. Let's see another contribution. James Sisse is watching from Freetown. Thank you, Mr. Sisse. Many thanks, sir. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Usman Conte, Alex Smith. This government is a textbook example of everything that is wrong with Africa. Well noted, Mr. Smith. Many thanks. Usmani Kamara. This is the most corrupt administration in the history of Salone. They are prepared to justify all their corrupt practices while vilifying the previous administration, but time will tell. In the meantime, Salone people continue to pay the price. They continue to pay the price. They have no conscience, no shame, and no soul. Mr. Osmani Kamara, I largely agree with your sentiment. Many thanks for that. Mohammed Toure, my brother Prince, this is the price a nation pay when it vote on tribal and regional basis. Thank you, Mr. Toure, for that sentiment expressed. And this is why we are looking at a possibility of whether we will continue to provide information for our people so we understand what is at stake. It's a country of 7 plus or more million people, and we need to forge ahead as a people. We need to forge ahead as a people. Not even those that voted for are enjoying the benefit. It's just a handful of group of people. But let me continue with this broadcast. So the ACC let the people down. The government come for fight corruption and make the ACC stronger. Create different articles for them for give them leadway into how if for pursue corrupt officials. But what we now know is the accusation made earlier on that this was a political witch hunt remains true today. I didn't see it then, but I get the benefit of hindsight today, and I can subscribe to that fact that this looks largely like witch hunting because you're going after only your political opponent and you they compromise when your political capital they at risk. Look at the Alpha Khan factor. It shows, how disingenuous you are, how unserious you are for fed corruption in the name of the Sierra Leonean people. That's exactly what it is. So you were only using this to disable your opponents, and you use that method there because the method was quite appealing. The APC was corrupt. They stole millions, if not billions, of leons. But they are in court. They are in Francis Ben Kaifala's court. That's where they are. And the problem here is money that's been recouped is being paid into a private account. How many of we really support this? Why do you have to pay money recouped from corrupt officials into private accounts? Why do you have to do that? Is it a must? That this must be the norm? No, it's not. You've chosen to. So my interest in this is why a private account? When if I don't go on a public account? If I don't go on a public account, we all see them. They consolidated revenue fund, how much was paid. Now we get for listen to una back for come back and tally the figures and say this person non pay so, this person non pay so. Here's the total of how much we collect. Why if you not make a simple and pay into government account instead of a private account? Why pay into a private account in the first place? Why? Why do you do that? Let's go to Fatima Bio, the office of the First Lady. So the first in the office of the First Lady, I think now Sia Koroma, the wife of the former president Anes Koroma, will begin float this idea about office of the First Lady. But according to what you don't come for land is like the office of the First Lady, not a bad idea, but which law we create that office day? Because in pointing to the office of the First Lady, especially what you don't come for understand under this government, is the office of the First Lady is an extension of that of the presidency. And here is the catch. If that, and in fact, this is the basis why they make that case. If the office of the First Lady is an extension of the office of the president, therefore, that office of the First Lady will have to be funded either via the office of the presidency, because that's an extension of his office. Imagine that. This is waiting they use for try for justify the use of the office of the presidency and the office of the First Lady as an extension. And during this process, the office of the First Lady continue to receive money. This is important again, because in the fool's paradise, you get people that will just generally just side with the First Lady, even though what is happening is absolute corruption on a level never seen before, on a scale never seen before. They want disrupt they want divert ideas and what have you about the office of the First Lady, about funding of the office of the First Lady. And by the way, the First Lady denied them funding there for many months. She denied it. Evidence upon evidence proved that she was in the taking. She ashamedly went on air. She's gone slow now a little bit because she was always on social media and doing herself great harm than good. Not admitting, but telling the general public that all these accusations were false and fake, and she worked for her money, she and her husband, for these many years, and this is the money that they're using. And it turned out to be very, very disingenuous, fake, lying. Because in the end, she had to swallow back. She had to accept after being confronted with incontrovertible evidence. She finally accepted that, well, this office is Fambulem. I just want to let you imagine this. This is not the first lady of the country caught outrightly, flatly lying. And we've been saying this for like a few years. And all time we they get problem with some of we countrymen them. We just decide see. We just believe this first lady. And what thing it is say now the truth. Now una then guy there, now una na the liar. And not only liar, because una not like the first lady. Not only like, but use more strong language, which is una just hate the woman because it's so fine, because the president in wealth, you know. That's what we kept hearing from apparently prominent Sierra Leonean them. The only reason why they were doing that because they were getting crumbs off the table. But 4 years on, what's the story? The story here is the first lady finally went on to admit, after being confronted by incontrovertible evidence, that what she's saying is untrue. The money being used, nobody's contesting that she don't have money, but saying that the money being used is money that she worked for and it's their money, she and her husband, for 22 years. It turned out not to be true. And for a first lady to be caught in this kind of action in which your pronouncement that you're making is virtually untrue, that is quite telling. That is quite telling for we leadership. It does not end there. She continued to receive money into an office. Now they manage for legitimize them. They don't manage for legitimize them by saying that is an extension of the first of the president in office. So therefore, the president can fund that office. As we speak, First Lady Fatima Bio is the only first lady that has 3 accounts. I don't know about the others. She could possibly have others, but 3 accounts. She even has an account which is kind of laughable but serious and questionable with the central bank, the first lady of the Republic of Sierra Leone. There are so many violations of the rules, and we try to understand how come. So an account was opened for na Rokel Bank, na National Bank, and I think na Zenith, but one of the other banks. And one of the account them, on the first day that it was open, like when you open an account and put small thing there, she got almost 3 billion leons. 3 billion leons paid into that account. One of the accounts that she opened. 3 billion leons, a whopping 3 billion leons. And we get for live with that Fambulem. As soon as I can see it in the gun. And this is not the first lady. And since then, that account there will see different reflection according to the publication of the African Express, including the audit report. Money being paid into that account by agencies, international agencies, because of the First Lady effort in organization. 2 of them. One, Hands Off Our Girls, which turned out to be a cash cow, and then the Fatima and Julius Maada Bio Foundation. All just about money making. And all the money they are going into their account. And at some point, we will need some kind of accountability process. The same way how is Excellency Julius Maada Bio try for hold people accountable for acts of corruption against the Sierra Leonean people. The same is very true of the other people we supposedly done the thief money left, right, and center. I see my sister Kasada Kitchen enter the platform strictly with nonsense. So Kasada Kitchen, if you can lay emphasis to what the nonsense is, let me understand exactly where that is. But welcome to the program anyway. So this is what it is. The first lady caught red-handed, her hands in the cookie jar. But you get people that will come and defend them. And these people in themselves, they get zero credibility, because if you catch me the thief, and then instead of you condemn me because stealing is not a good act, But you come, you begin for praise me as if I'm being so smart, for able for defraud others of their hard-earned money or other things. Then imagine who you are, an accomplice, but even probably more dangerous than I am. This is the same situation with people who went on for back the first lady. On which basis? The woman was caught red-handed. After many denials, she finally conceded. And instead of una concede with them, una still dey holler on social media or una jealous of the. How can you be jealous of somebody with thief? How? And that's all you're outlining. Say, no, this wasn't right. And the woman self don't agree, say, no, not me money again, but me office, na me money extension. And when I ask her about anything further, because she's been tutored, it's like, ask State House, ask my husband, ask the State House. That's what she's doing now, because obviously she's been tutored. The owner, the full man and the big fool one, they still they back that. I mean, sometimes we have to be harsh. And this is just it. There are big fool people them. And when we say big fool are the one that will continue for Backham, even though the woman don't go on for admit say that was a mistake. Remember the issue of Nasit. I can go on and on with Fatima because she's been with us for 4 years and we don't come for understand a lot of things. But we speak to the Sierra Leonean people today. Remember Nasit on the issue of corruption. Gather all the money and take a mesheba amongst themselves. Nasit now one place will be heavily corrupt. Remember Petroleum Directorate, the president in Cozino, in whatever. Money being paid to these people, them exorbitant sums, or then yes, siphon off then departments or agencies there into their own private accounts or their own private use. They get off with it because it has become the norm culture of the administration. And this administration, with all good intent and purpose, started off nicely on the basis of waiting and promised the Sierra Leonean people. Fambulem, let us not forget Executive Order Number 1. So Marabio come on the back of the government where they say the government of Anesco don't thief all the money in the coffers. So it basically inherit a near bankrupt economy. Now take note that bankrupt and near bankrupt are two different things. But once he introduced that kind of language, the societal norm, it became a societal norm for people them exactly where they support them. For re-echo, they became a re-echo chamber into waiting the retired brigadier say. And in fact, a slight change in which I inherited a bankrupt economy. The president did say I inherited a close to bankrupt economy, but then in people and take them from that point there on a bankrupt economy, which changed the dynamics na the ground and the argument in itself. But whilst all of that was ongoing, the president make sure say executive number 1 when I for cut extra spending so that you go able for save. I repeat, cut extra spending so that you go able for save. No more flying or less flying or would I want fly we need for no, so we go only authorize people them where there is an absolutely necessity for them to go abroad because government go get for spend heavily, but DM, hotel fee, food fee, this, that, and what have you. So only out of necessity you will have to go. And there were people flying left, right, and center. And then the president almost make it like a law. Anybody where they fly now or we're about for going on a government mission, first of all, need for consult with with the State House. Yeah, that's what the president said. And there was a reason beyond that. And every time we've been get account of money there. I remember that very well. And I've been so impressed. Money they come in for the day, they were absolutely transparent about that. This is what came in today. And then go also left the levy known a morning waiting go out of government expenditure and waiting come in at the end of the day. But that lasted for only a few months. In a few months' time, the retired brigadier changed his mind. There was none of this accountability and transparency process that we saw from the very onset, which had most of us impressed and supportive of the new government and try for defend the new government. But in a few months' time, all of that was gone. showing that there was an added imperative, there was an added intention to deprive government of hard-earned revenue, because those that came to govern us now, their sole intent is how to enrich themselves. It's based on selfishness, how to enrich themselves. And they've come on to prove that. So I don't say this lightly, but the proof is all there. So we remember NACIT, and we remember all the external dubious activity there with them they do. Take their money there, some of them money there, send them outside, which became effectively money laundering, you go call them. So you remember how they buy vehicles them, yeah? Petrol SUVs, heavy SUVs. You don't get parts for them now freedom, yet you go buy them hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some of these vehicles were not even all delivered, and intentionally so, because their money there ended up somewhere else. And they talk about the Prado vehicles, them will be cost government over 2 billion leons. Okay. Now there's much more I want to say about corruption, but I want to go back quickly. Not go back, but I want to go to the census reports. Yeah. I go really like to go to the census reports. Yes, I want to go to the census reports. So there's confusion around the census report because, one, first of all, the census report is not correct. It's not correct in the sense that you get something where they call, the census itself, where they call the people census. And there's a reason why they call them the people census, because it's a people's thing. The people are happy to participate in a process. Very happy to participate in a process, because this process, when done properly, can impact the lives of the people in a positive way. We need to understand what the census about. It's not only about counting heads, but we need to know, say, developmentally, it also has an impact where you get for do boundary delimitations and what can constitute boundaries, what can make a particular side get an MP. We really need to know this. And now I want to talk about Lilibit. But all waiting to go on about the census. As we speak today, Fambulem, over 70% of the people who were employed for carry out this exercise, this botch exercise, there's no need for let we mince words. This is what exactly it is. I know people who are not being counted. Some of my people have not been counted. Some homes of politicians have not been counted. I had politicians on my platform the other day. They've not been counted, and they've made it clear that they were not counted. So when we say this, we know that this is just a fact, that the entire exercise was botched from the beginning and botched all the way. I don't know whether I don't end or whether they can end soon. But here is where we are regarding this midterm census. 70% of the people have not been paid as yet. 70% of the people have not been paid as yet. But the report we gather from Freetown is the president is determined for go ahead and make this announcement anyway. And me not go surprised, because they've done more than that, in which consultations no kind of necessary. As we speak so today, the people that were not paid in the 70% today, then they strike na Freetown on a daily basis. On a daily basis, they are striking in Freetown. And as we speak back again, there is this speculation about who that for call the the census report and who that not for call them. We know say this the big man for the census agency, now Malam Bangura, now in the big man. And then they anticipate saying for call the census, but there's an irony or twist there in which Malam O in term don't expire. In term don't expire. And if your term don't expire, how do you go further for go pronounce the result? How can you go further for pronounce the result? Where will be a clear violation. We dey understand say Malam O already is being internationally employed. He get international employment. But the government, according to my report where we get from the gun, they actually want for the Malam O do this as a last act for them by making that pronouncement in their behalf, because in at the head, but even though it's not legitimate any longer because in time don't expire. But you dey look at people and when they not count na various districts, various communities, various chiefdoms, they not count them at all. How credible can this particular exercise be? All the locality then they not count them. So even as we dey say, people then reject the census right out. They reject them. Political parties they reject them. So now whose result we SLPP really want for call out? I mean, at some point the camel's back will have to be broken. Okay? Una listen to this. Yeah. You know, say the result of the midterm census is tied in to NEC. In other words, waiting follow elections. And we also need for remember, say elections has been announced. Presidential elections were na June 24, I believe, something like that. But yes, that's been announced. And that parliamentary elections also therefore come into play. We need to reflect back in 2015 when the census was done, because this is a painstaking process and there's a reason why. So 2015, all the analysis of the census was done. The people that will be responsible for that, they look their input and their analysis. Once they don't do and done, then turn around and channel them through the right process by taking them to parliament for let parliament have a look. And once parliament have a look into the results, then therefore it almost become like a referendum or the reasons why it's called a people's census, because now it was taken. And they go back to the 2015. In other words, that they try for draw a parallel here. There's no parallel here, but they try for draw a parallel. If you've been this for 2015, if for most likely they so in this 2022. 2015 was when the last one was done. So from Parliament, once Parliament don't look into it and give them back and take an Kango and Miata Conference Center, who said they go present them to the people. Yeah. So that's the exact document. It get for be a draft. So in that draft day, you're able to determine, say, there are problems within the draft itself, so that you go able to look at them. But waiting the party in power hasn't done is they haven't produced a draft report at all. They have not. And this is what they should have done, because, again, it's a basic requirement. The process is exhaustive, it's complex. So when you do them, for let you arrive at some meaningful conclusion, you dey pull draft for let, if na parliament get for look into them, if na we una go na Miata Conference Center for go get the people them involved, together una can review them and see whether there are faults in there. This is why the draft midterm is an absolute necessity. It's a very important piece of document. Very important document. When it comes to the 2015 census, it took over a year because of the difficulties then way they along. After the 1 year in 2016, now their time they then produce the results. When they don't produce the results, they talk about the people that will work the work when ASSL, and then they present the report to NEC. And once they present the report to NEC, NEC take charge from that one day. NEC look into RAM, and then after 1 year, they develop a boundary limitation formula. After 1 year. So when I get the process we get for take place, and in this case, none of this process has taken place. It's chaotic. When people like we report on that, is because there is hatred. This is not the newfound word, hatred, but you're reporting on facts. Waiting really happen, and waiting supposed to happen. And waiting supposed to happen. NEC get for the constituency limitations and ward limitations. Okay, you need 44,000 people in a community for make up a community where they warrant for let then get MP. So for let you divide a constituency into different wards, you get for don't get them documents they are prepared and ready for you. Not to like the way how these people are they refer to the government of Sierra Leone. Don't go ahead for conduct this particular census. And the way how they conduct this particular census, Fambolem, is questionable. It shows no integrity in the process. It shows no principle in the process. It shows a botched process. And therefore, why will the government of Sierra Leone, because they haven't given up yet, want to go ahead with such a report? So let's look at the timing. Basically, let's look at the timing basically of, there's a reason why I mentioned 2015, and then the boundary and delimitations, the draft report, the timing basically. So we look at 2022 right now, Fambulem, and barely in a year's time, there will be, God willing, no dramas, and elections, presidential elections, that has already been announced. So we're not cooking up dates. We're not talking about theoreticals. We're talking about practical. This is physically being done. Dates have been announced. Dates, I repeat, have been announced. Dates have been announced. So how at this critical time, where time really not there, for let you go present, not to the draft, oh, because we know again they even talk about draft, another abuse of processes and procedures. Instead, and they talk about presenting the report to NEC. And the critical thing here is you have to look at the time between now and June. Between now and June, elections will have to be held. And away from that, constitutionally speaking, there are timelines, there are guidelines. Has those guidelines been observed? Are we terribly satisfied with those guidelines? Have they been observed? No, they've not. They've not. Now, say you they present all that data there to NEC, for let NEC extract the data of those who are eligible for vote. Remember, say it's a painstaking process. So you get an 18-year-old and above, because that's what the law say. If you're 18, you can vote. So when you go ahead and do this midterm census, this is the data that you extract from there and many more. So other than at this household, we're not 18, so you are eligible for vote. Or since we do it now, but the validation goes between now and 1 year from now when elections will have been held, or 2 years from now when it will have been held. Other than we don't turn 18, we don't become eligible for vote. These are all the tractions and projections captured by the report. But none of that has been done. None of that. Now, also you extract that. Because now when you don't do that now you make the decision and say, will they go forward now with that? But no, that hasn't been done at all. And this is how serious this condition is. So NEC don't do all of that. Census Sierra Leone don't do all of that. And this thing is time scale. 70% promise the people waiting for pay, we carry out the act, has still not been paid, even though the act itself is botched. These people who have not been paid, and rightfully so, are protesting out there for their monies to be paid. The entire process itself has been sabotaged by the reckless and callousness of the government from the moment the IMF or the World Bank decided to pull out, because these are the people who sponsor these programs. So it's not only about the monies that they give to the programs, but they help to add credibility to these programs, because they endorse the programs. They spend their money where their mouth is, and they follow along. That alone has given you credibility, and this is what most African governments do. But instead, because our government did not like the idea, they whipped up the emotions of their fellow citizens and supporters to speak against the World Bank, who has been very, very helpful to our government, both materially and financially, for a period of time now. With this current government, for the last 3 years, 4 years, they've been very generous, sometimes paying out budget allocations in the tune of millions. So they back out from a purported midterm census and saying the wherewithal is not there, the legitimacy is not there. So they backed off. The government, if you had no intention per se, if you had no sinister intention per se, sure enough, you would have listened to one of your international partners. They sponsor this side of things. You could go ahead and champion the cause for freedom, the emancipation, the independence of a newfound Sierra Leone, away from colonialist past and all these people that are subjecting us to all these conditions. But if you were to do that, where do you stand? Are you economically viable? Are you economically independent? No, you're not. Even to pay your civil servants, you can't. Now, did the budgetary allocation come from 70 million this month? Say, for let you carry out your obligations because they can't afford for let you state fail as long as you they conform. This is called soft power. And this is exactly what's been happening. So with census report now, here comes the difference. The people then pull out. Then pull out, then tell you say you're not credible. Now you whipped up emotional sentiment now you people. We go sponsor we own by-election. We go sponsor we own blah blah blah. Are you really ready? Are you serious? Or are you just joking? Do you think running the business of government with the 7.5 million people is a joke? Sir? No, it's not. So on the same issue of the census, we know say there is no way that they go able to analyze the census in a logical sense based on the timing. We are way beyond the timing. Go and look at the way the 2017 census was committed. Well organized, well paid, and backed by the people in the international communities. International communities. But it's so ill, this one now is so ill-timed, and I can tell Una today say it's practically impossible for let NEC use this data when they try for trap based on this botch one that they will use this for conduct the 2023 elections. It's practically impossible. You just need to look at the time, not to rocket science. Now, whose time you go analyze all of this information, which is embedded within this reading, we're not even correct. That's 70% of what you promise people. 70% of them has not been paid. 70% of monies owed to 70% of the people that carry out the census has not been paid to them. That in itself is a big, big issue. Wow. Now the 2 hours mark, this is where we are. On the same issue of the census, I will move on shortly because we need to cut this program short. So just for brief una quickly, Fambulem, for those of you who want to understand the way how delimitation works or the census generally works. For let you create a section, you go get, during the delimitation process, you get for cut a boundary, and that boundary has to be constituted by over 44,000 people. Then we go constitute a constituency. In other words, it become a constituency in which there needs to be a parliamentarian. So you can see why some governments can go ahead and create that. But if government should go ahead with these boundary limitations, where they go court one point to the other for create a constituency so that an honorable can operate, we constitute of 44,000 eligible voters from 18 years and above, you get 3 to 6 months within the boundary delimitation, which is also known as the amalgamation, in which a potential MP can say, this boundary I won't cut for me, but it will be go on a lot cut here. Let we just get basically what we need. now in the de-amalgamation. I think I say amalgamation, I mean de-amalgamation, and then amalgamate for bring come together. So a potential parliamentarian can decide, say, no, I don't want this de-amalgamation. The process, I mean, or the boundary is too big for me. After when I don't come up from there, then when I go towards the voter registration. And for let you go to the registration process, then you go don't get the constitution. Fumble. Goodness me. There is there's a lot happening, and we need for cluing. Yeah. And when I say cluing, we really need for understand the direction in which a certain group of people they want for take we, and we for resist the way out they want for the outside they want for can we go. I don't think we should, agree with that. And once the government of Sierra Leone, because there's a breaking point, remember I say from the beginning, I tell you, I say there has to be a sparking moment with all of this call that one day it will just be too much, and then the resistance, starts from there. So with this exercise where they carry out, once you get this boundary limitation, you get 3 to 6 months where it take for let you get this de-amalgamation. So look at the timing. Family, when I look at the timing is just not appropriate for let you carry out this entire exercise, because during this de-amalgamation process, it's also exhaustive because they refuse something. Where una don't go through that de-amalgamation, the way potentially this person can complain, then una come to the amalgamation process in which eventually they group in X, Y, and Z, and they become one constituency, and then from there you go to the voter registration. I sorry I dey repeat myself because I wonder when I get down there. But for let you get the voter registration, if you don't get the constituency masters and the ward masters, if you don't get both, because now from there you dey determine say the constituency under that population where they dey, you dey able for determine the amount or number of polling stations them where you go need. Family when they see wetin it constitute. But if you don't know that, or it based on fakery, that means everything else where they follow is going to be extremely fake. And it's not going to be helpful to the people then. I hope say we get that. I need to round up this conversation because it's gone past the 2-hour mark. Okay. It's gone past the 2-hour mark. Let I just do one more. Make I just do one more and then we close. Yeah. So Fambulema, thank you very much for listening and for taking time for absorb all of this. You see, another major thing will happen or will happen during this period of the presidency of Julius Maada Bio, even though they promise we how you call them cuts for streamline the economy so that we were able to survive as a people, because the last government of Ernest Bai Koroma, they thief all the money, they spend all the money, there was nothing left. So therefore, they can streamline things, apply processes and procedures, the accountability and transparency process, so that we'll be able to recoup the economy and put the economy on a sound footing. And Fambulen, don't be fooled. The Ukraine and Russia crisis, where they compound the problem that we face now, and not only us, largely the international community. It only started 24 days ago. 24 days ago. So, with problem where we don't encounter, remember the bread and butter issue? It's not new. The SLPP government promised the people of Sierra Leone bread and butter issue. And then gradually that butter, bread and issue was not realized. Largely because of their own doing. That provides some background to the story quickly before we close. So, if one can remember, there were mass sackings. Now we become for understanding mass sackings there, especially in specific areas. Let us say, for example, the ASSL. So, Statistics Sierra Leone, there was a suspicion that the people who were employed there, especially so by the last government, were people who were kind of loyal to the government for doing dirty work within the inside when it comes to manipulating census, delimitations and limitations, the amalgamation and amalgamation, all them processes then they will involve the census. So, and most of them were Northerners. You can look at them by name. So, where the new government ushered in, led by ex-Brigadier Julius Maada Bio, His Excellency, then decide for target them people in the, and over 240 of them were thrown out of jobs with a flimsy excuse like they do not fit the bill, they did not meet the requirement. In other words, high school or college degrees. High school or college degrees. High school or college degrees. I just get one call. I don't get a conversation with this brother lately. Maybe one contribute to the program, and I go happy for taking contribution before I close the program. Let me just hear it from him quickly. Yeah, Bossman. Yeah, hello, brother. I shall say you watch the program. Am I correct?
Oh, yeah. The program, yeah.
Now, the program now you want to contribute to, because now the only reason why I take your call. I've been feel say you want to talk.
I want to speak for that. How the program go about my program.
Okay, then no problem, brother. I will call later. Are they live now? Okay, then thanks. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no, the brother doesn't want to comment now. But anyway, let's just go back into that. So over 200 people or 240 people were sacked from Statistics Sierra Leone, and this is a key and strategic place. Now we don't know why those people were sacked en masse, because you want to recruit people en masse who are loyal to you in a key department or institution. We're able to influence the outcome of an election through dubious means. That's exactly what you will see they play out. So, although they get some hiccups. Malam Oden, they ask him for read out this election results before they go, because he don't get international assignment. Even though in time no expire. So even if you read the announcement, it will be illegal because he's not supposed to be the one for doing. But does the government care? Because time and time and again, we see reckless attitude on the part of this government, especially when it comes to something way very critical for them, their own survival. So another thing will happen is the wage bill. The reason why some of the things that are not able to get them up to this day today, for understand within they constitute the bad governance, the inflation rate, which they cause the skyrocketing of prices of goods and services. Then go on after waiting and promise we for streamline the wage bill. It turned out for BC, the wage bill don't grow exponentially under them to almost twice its amount. And remember the wage bill, now you can use for cut down cost because they employ more, and you look outside and outside and over employ people them and decide say, well, you don't need 30 people in there, 20 people can do the job. So you cut down management basically. So 10 people that you don't cut down bad enough, but you don't save government hundreds of millions of leons. Bad priority. People that you don't train over the years. And Fambulem, the government of Sierra Leone, they spend millions of dollars every year for trained personnel in relevant positions of trust so that they can carry out their duties, as required by the department, ministries, and agencies where they are, as per their experience. And these are experienced, especially the civil servants, very experienced people. But these people were fired for inexperienced people. So you can imagine the drain where you get from a particular area, then they also you put inexperienced people. So this is not rocket science. And then you employ people en masse. You create bureaus, agencies, embassies, and all of this require money spent. And then now morning you clap and ask, how come the wage bill don't balloon? How come we're not able for reining the leons, for give value to the leons, for stagnate? For make the leons become stagnant. In other words, instead of it descend into more chaos, at least if it dey some side and we're able for keep and day, maybe we can do far better than we it just they dangle down. And this is what happened. And going to the Bank of Sierra Leone, the auction left, right, and center. There was a hope on Professor Kalon that if he put more dollar in the street, they were able to stabilize the leons. That did not work. And they've applied so many methods right now as we speak today. Now the zeros now don't reduce, and so we get a new currency in town, which they still in par with the old currency. Also, you can get 1,000 leones. Now 1 leone, now you get 10 leones. I don't forget the configuration. I hope I get that right. But this is what it is. But none of this is working because there is massive amount of corruption. And Fambulem, I go look for Lefuna on this basis. Yes, finally, I go look for Lefuna on this basis. So, during a particular period in time, we are in Escoma in name a lot. In other words, we'll be getting international visitors them where they come to the country. We international partners them. We've been there on consultations and etc. We every social media pundits we apparently don't understand exactly what's in the going. Begin make noise. Why are they meeting Anescoma? Well, the reason the answer is short. Because Anescoma is the leader of empathy. So the international community people, when they come now consultation and they come on for can consult these people where they lead empathies because there was a political process ongoing. So when they come, then go McKinney and go pay homage to Anes, then go to the background and talk with him and supposed for talk. And sometimes those talks can be really harsh. The same thing is true of the presidency. They meet the presidency because now political and social discussion and they get how to move the process forward under democratic governance, the rule of law, the involvement of the people and political pluralism, justice and fairness, social equity, press freedom, free from intimidation, human rights, and all of them kind of things. This is what the international community comes to talk about, and most times they go beyond closed doors. And when they go beyond closed doors, they hammer themselves well out there. And then they come out, it's all smiles. This is called diplomacy. And then they shake hands, and then you make very good comments or express good sentiment about you compatriot or you host. And then you host will do the same thing about you, the guest. It's just natural in the world of diplomacy. Yeah. But then people find it difficult say the same people they go meet Anescoma because he was the leader of empathy now the consultation they go on so. And the fruit of the consultations and now we see with the eventual announcement of elections date. We don't pay the bill. Somebody else pays the bill. It be left with Mara BO1. Of course, now it will be not beginning the year so 2024, 2028. This is what they do. They inject that into the psyche or the minds of the people. And then gradually we'll buy into RAM. And if you're not the only sheriff in town, which you want 9 to be. But the IMF, the EU, who are sponsoring the elections, had these consultations and decided, say, look, we need to make this announcement and we need a date. We need a date. Or will not be sponsoring the elections, or you will be in bad book. These are the kind of languages that they use in the background. And when they come outside, it's all smiles. My host has been very generous to me. The city of Freetown is brilliant, and all looks well. And we're hoping that things will improve, and the Sierra Leonean people will feel the benefit. Things like that when they come outside in front of the cameras. So the EU now sponsor the elections. And the EU don't want them. We need to do something about the elections. We need a date. We need an announcement. And sure enough, the announcement and eventually they end up for camp. GOSL not get much choice because the EU don't give them 29 conditions. These are the conditions that you need for meet. There's an accountability process. There's due diligence. Although we can't always say we need to honor them, but when it comes to another power, you have to honor them. You can't behave tough on them or they then go strangle you. So Fambule, I want to say thank you very much for listening to this particular program tonight. And we believe, with all of the foregoing, the Sierra Leonean people now get the reasons whether they should effect a change come 2023 based on informed stuff, not to knee-jerk reaction when they ask for, not to on the basis of sentiment, not to on the basis of theory, but rather on the basis of practical. Are you satisfied with your life today than you were satisfied with it yesterday? Was yesterday better than today? And let me not pretend for once, and they repeat this because this is what they're beginning to sell us now. gradually. I've been places and I hear the argument. Hard time day also, which is true, waiting the effect that hard time day. When did the hard time started? Did it started 24 days ago when Russia invade Ukraine? No, that hard time has been there. Then tell us, say, then go solve the bread and butter issue. Now the bread and butter issue has become so complex that they've denied, including the Minister of Finance, denied, the narrative about the bread and butter issue, and then therefore explain something completely different to us, and they expect we for swallow this. But all I keep saying is the Sierra Leonean people are no fools. They are very smart and clever. There's a new dynamism in town. It's been innovated by the people of Sierra Leone, the younger folks of Sierra Leone, championed by them, and then the mechanism used for innovate this new kind of stuff within DEPA is that of the arrival of the internet, social media, where they spread the message thick and fast. In minutes, it's gone. And once it's gone, it never comes back. That's where it is. That's where it remains. And this is where it is. Sierra Leonean people, remain focused. Understand your leadership. What are they up to? Based on all of these reports that we've given, which are just facts, corruption galore, Francis Ben Kaifala protecting the regime, 49,000 bags of rice gone for nothing. The Sierra Leonean people did not benefit out of it, even though it was meant for their benefit. All of the promises, the rice project, Toma Bomb, where is it? The tractors, where is it? The president's promise to the Sierra Leonean people of changing, the culture that they find themselves in, raising the standard of life for the better. Are we into that? Elected today. Where was it yesterday? Where is it today? Where are we today with electricity, energy as a whole? Where are we? The president also promised us a lot of things. Pipe-borne, clean drinking water. And 4 years on, where is it? We keep hearing about feeder roads. But 99% of these roads were leftovers. Where are your projects? Where is Lunge Bridge? Where are the airports in Bo and Kenya? Where are they? There are many questions that we could keep asking. We could keep going on and on and on. And it will never seem to have a stop because the promises are so many. In 4 years, the question is, what is going to be the message that you're going to take to the people? Because you've clearly failed them. You failed us. You failed us. But you're going to be asking us for another 5 years. And I keep wondering on which basis. What's the message? What's the code? Or are you depending on something else? Are you depending on an Alpha Can factor, for example? Which means that you're taking the Sierra Leonean people for granted. Francis Ben Kaifala, be serious about your job for once. Fatima Bio, continue doing your good acts, but in good faith. Hands Off Our Girls is a good project, but do it in good faith. It should not be a cash cow, how to milk the cash cow. All those accounts that were opened by you, including the one at the central bank, only continue to receive monies from both within the country, those that are donating to you, and other means, dubious means, and other international communities. Francis Ben Kaifa, why honor a private account in which monies that you're recouping from former corrupt officials are being paid into a private account? Why not a public account? What's wrong with the CRF? What's the idea behind the single treasury account? Why is it not being utilized? Fambulem, for all of this, una check and una check the NRA report, which is internationally intertwined, so it cannot be doctored. Familiarize yourself with all of these sayings. Don't be misled. Don't be an echo chamber for propaganda. Spew out facts. Put country first. Put party beneath country. Country must always come first. Famulem, on this basis, I want to say good night to Una. I thank Una very much. Most likely we will get Harun Zubairu on Sunday, and I will be the moderator on that program day. But before Sunday, definitely will be Superman. So don't forget to tune in. At this point, once more, I say my final goodbye, good night, good day to every one of you. Let's have the faith. Let's keep our country in mind. Let's make the right decision, not based on sentiment. Something we will impact the country positively and bring this much wanted change. We will benefit a lot of Sierra Leoneans. In behalf of the TNN TV media empire, goodbye to all. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Kagbo, and thank you everyone. Thank you everyone that participated in tonight's program. Let's continue to share so Sierra Leoneans can have the message. One final bow to all of you. Love you from the bottom of my heart. Country first. Bye for now.